Good afternoon, friends. Dr. Debashish back with you again. Since the last 2 days, as I have recorded video narratives which have been provoked or which have been stimulated or I have been motivated to do so, following the following reading about the sudden, untimely, tragic demise of a young person, Mr. Sushant Singh Rajput, um Bollywood actor, and then I decided to take up the cudgels against this very rapidly and very, fulminantly evolving social issue about rampant suicides that we see are happening and we are hearing about, involving people of all kinds of age groups. Now, the last two video narratives were basically to motivate and initiate people into looking beyond themselves into the people, the human beings who are there in our immediate surrounding environment, and trying to reach out and trying to help them, because as I've been saying again and again, what is mostly and acutely and seriously needed to help out such individuals is to offer them a shoulder to lean on and someone who's willing to listen to their pathos or whatever internal troubles mentally, socially, or emotionally that they're going through. If they are successful in unloading their pent up feelings, probably they would get seriously decompressed from the mental trauma and stress that they seem to be experiencing 24 cross 7 within their minds, which puts them into a state of despair and drives them into a state of taking a reckless, callous decision, which many a times is costing them their very own dear life. Now, I'm going to talk more in detail about this today. Now, it's though I am a medical professional, but I have been dealing with babies for the last almost 3 decades of my life. Now, that itself, though I do not claim to have a master's or a PhD in psychology, but then my job is equally tough and requires a thorough psychological in-depth awareness and knowledge while dealing or going about my practice, because most of my clients are newborn babies who just wince or cry, cannot talk, cannot verbally communicate and tell me or direct me to their actual problem. So either I have to depend on their parents, who may be smart enough or not, or I have to read the facial expressions and the body and then the physical gesticulations of the baby in trying to understand what actually could be the focus of the issue. And then I have cultivated myself over these years. I have read quite a good volume of articles, books, and research papers, and other scientific publications related to psychology, mental health, and well-being. And I think I can reasonably talk with a certain amount of certainty, authenticity, and confidence to help people around me to become more socially aware and awakened in taking up this social responsibility and helping out people. So, in my broad opinion and view of or classification, as I may take the liberty to say so, there are three kinds of people that we normally interact. Now, I'm going to restrict myself to the adult population. Now, the first is those who are outrightly have been seen, classified, and labeled as suffering from depression or some kind of mental disturbances or psychological behavioral impairments. That is type A. Then you have class B, who are seemingly normal, who appear to go about their day to day life in a very normal way. But then these are the kind of people who have a very uneasy, calm, and a very turbulent state of mind within, but they are equally good in masquerading their true internal, excursions and their struggles and the constant tug of war that they are experiencing within themselves, and they go about their day-to-day lives in a very socially calm and serene manner without letting out their true internal self getting exposed to the people around or to the world around them. And the third is people who are otherwise very calm, very quiet, very stable, and have actually a very you could say on routine social and emotional parameters, a very composed life. But then there may be a sudden event or a sudden episode which happens in their life, which is totally unexpected, unanticipated, and it throws a spanner in their normal wheel of thought process, their logical, their analytical, and their generic assessment abilities, and they go on a serious downspin, or they spiral down into a sudden bout of depression, and then that in that moment of, I would say, insanity or acute depression, they totally lose focus, sense of direction, sense of purpose, and that at times may drive them off to do something very catastrophic. So these are the three types of people that we normally find around us. Now, coming to those who are already labeled to be experiencing behavioral, psychosomatic, or cognitive, or depression like disorders, they already must have been seen, classified by some experienced and well trained, well qualified people, whoever they may be, and they may be already having a charted out plan. So for us, for we the common men, the laymen, who, if we come across such a person in a moment of when there is like a global scenario of stress and strain and uncertainty and fear and paranoia going on because of this corona pandemic, our responsibility, our job becomes in trying to make sure that these people are strictly adherent to their prescribed plan of medications or therapies or whatever, and we need to work or remain as a watchdog to ensure that they do not deter or detour from their charted out plan of therapy, and to ensure that if they are confined within the restraints of their therapeutic guidelines, then they would remain safe, and they would not do something which otherwise may very easily happen if they are allowed to remain unprotected, unobserved, or without a surveillance or a monitoring. So that is one group. It's relatively easy. All we got to do is have a sharp, vigilant eye on such people. The most complicated group are those who appear serene and calm but have major issues within them, which they have successfully masqueraded or kept it away, hidden from the prying eyes of the surrounding environment. But let me tell you one thing. There is no person who has a troubled mind but a smile on his face, that who will not give you those fine sentinel signs, those fine microscopic peepholes through which you can definitely figure out that there is something wrong somewhere. Now, how do you go about trying to understand such people? Let me tell you, whenever a person is in a disturbed state of mind internally, there would definitely be a reflection of the same in his normal day-to-day life pattern. Now, for example, you're used to a person who's very disciplined, very time-bound, very meticulous. Suddenly, if he starts getting, his biological rhythm of sleep and getting up gets changed, you find him sleeping for long hours. A person who's very careful about his appearance, suddenly you find him with unkempt hair, or going to work, or staying unshaved. A person or with his nails not being clipped very regularly. A person who's normally a very jovial person, you find him getting into more often reclusive moods, or a person who is normally not known to go into temper tantrums or fits of rage or temper. Suddenly you find him unexpectedly demonstrating outbursts of serious emotional behavior, and a person who is normally very articulate, very good in speech, suddenly you find him in a moment of anger or something using expletives or kind of language which has been unheard of from his mouth. So or suddenly you find that a person who's normally a very calm, sedate, and an introvert kind of person suddenly becomes gregarious, suddenly becomes foolhardy, suddenly becomes overbearing in all his actions, speech, or his elements of behavior. So anything which suddenly is a noticeable change from the existing pattern should draw your attention to the fact that something is wrong somewhere, and this person is harboring some kind of anguish within himself. Moment you encounter or visualize or detect such a person known to you very well, very closely, or even not that well, not that in depth, try to reach out, try to make an effort to communicate to that person. Obviously, the first few lines of communication, or the first few efforts, or the first few attempts may not yield the desired results, but someone has to step forward and break the ice. Until the person assumes a resound amount of faith and trust and confidence that you are someone he can talk to without being judged, you are someone who would not take or accumulate his treasured secrets of frustration, anguish, despair, or whatever, and utilize, or rather misuse it for either your personal gain or to his disadvantage. Until that kind of trust is built up, it will be definitely difficult for him to trust you beyond a certain point, or rather even unload or empty out his feelings and talk to you freely. But someone has to make an effort. Then the third group is of people whom, now these are usually going to be people who you know very well, who are around you, could be members of your family, your dear friends, your members of the society, whoever, who you feel have suddenly encountered a major hurdle or a major hiccup in some event concerning their lives. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be social. So many possibilities exist. Such are the people you need to not wait or hope that he is going to ask for your help. You need to be proactive. You need to step out of your cozy comforts of your chair or your room or your social cocoon. You need to go out. You need to outreach to such kind of people and hug them, embrace them emotionally, not physically, because again, I am not trying to send in a wrong message where people start taking advantage when I am saying that you need to go out and reach out to people. Doesn't mean that you start interfering, badgering, or exerting your presence in somebody's life when it is unwelcome. But I guess you've got to choose your audience, you've got to choose your subjects, and you've got to step forward, take a step forward, and until you make the effort, anybody who is already harboring a state of depression is not going to come out of his ironclad armor or his thick concrete shell and unload and unwind and express his concerns to you. The person who's willing to be a non-judgmental listener, a person who's willing to be a genuine helper, a genuine aid, a genuine concerned friend, or an acquaintance also for that matter, until he breathes, exhales that amount of willingness to understand that person without imposing his thoughts, his ideas, his directions, his guidelines, his guidance, tips, and let him just feel free to express whatever is there in his mind and heart. This system will not work. So I felt that it's not just sufficient to just tell people go out and start talking to people, but it's also going to be helpful in kind of telling them how to go about the whole process. I hope I make some sense. And I'm always open to suggestions. I'm always open to people encouraging or enlightening me into how to do this thing in a much more better way. I'm sure there are a lot of people who have more better skills and more competence in trying to approach and get people to talk, get people to express, get people to exhale, and I hope that this chain that I've been talking about in my last video narrative is perpetuated forward. It goes forward so that we can really make a positive difference in the lives of someone somewhere. Even if one life is saved from being self-destructed, I think the purpose, my purpose is served, and I'm sure you all resonate with my thought process. So God bless all of you. Have a great day and have a great weekend ahead. And let's keep the torch burning, and let's keep it, sharing it forward, so that we all have a better world to live in. Thank you so much.